A sniper is a military/paramilitary marksman who operates alone, in a pair or with a team, to maintain effective visual contact with the enemy and engage targets from concealed positions or at distances exceeding their detection capabilities. Snipers generally have specialized training and are equipped with high-precision rifles and high-magnification optics, and often feed information back to their units or command headquarters. In addition to marksmanship and long-range shooting, military snipers are trained in a variety of tactical techniques: detection, stalking, and target range estimation methods, camouflage, fieldcraft, infiltration, special reconnaissance and observation, surveillance and target acquisition. Etymology. The verb to snipe originated in the 1770s among soldiers in British India in reference to shooting snipe, which was considered a challenging target for marksmen. The agent noun sniper appears by the 1820s. The term sniper was first attested in 1824 in the sense of the word sharpshooter. A somewhat older term is sharpshooter, a calque of 18th century German Scharfschütze, in use in British newspapers as early as 1801. Modern warfare. Military doctrine. Different countries use different military doctrines regarding snipers in military units, settings, and tactics. Generally, a sniper's primary function in modern warfare is to provide detailed reconnaissance from a concealed position and, if necessary, to reduce the enemy's fighting ability by shooting high-value targets, especially officers and other key personnel, and in the process pinning down and demoralizing the enemy. Typical sniper missions include managing intelligence information they gather during reconnaissance and surveillance, target acquisition for airstrikes and artillery, assist employed combat force with fire support and counter-sniper tactics, killing enemy commanders, selecting targets of opportunity, and even destruction of military equipment, which tend to require use of anti-materiel rifles in the larger calibers such as the .50 BMG, like the Barrett M82, Macmillan TAC-50, and Enel NTW-20. Soviet and Russian-derived military doctrines include squad-level snipers. Snipers have increasingly been demonstrated as useful by US and UK forces in the recent Iraq campaign in a fire support role to cover the movement of infantry, especially in urban areas. Military snipers from the US, UK, and other countries that adopt their military doctrine are typically deployed in two-man sniper teams consisting of a shooter and spotter. A common practice is for a shooter and a spotter to take turns in order to avoid eye fatigue. In most recent combat operations occurring in large densely populated towns, such as Fallujah, Iraq, two teams would be deployed together to increase their security and effectiveness in an urban environment. A sniper team would be armed with its long-range weapon, and a shorter-ranged weapon in case of close contact combat. The German doctrine of largely independent snipers and emphasis on concealment, developed during the Second World War, has been most influential on modern sniper tactics, and is currently used throughout Western militaries. Examples are specialized camouflage clothing, concealment in terrain and emphasis on coup d'oeil. Sniper teams. Sniper rifles are classified as crew-served, as the term is used in the United States military. A sniper team, or sniper cell, consists of a combination of one or more shooters with force protection elements and support personnel, such as a spotter or a flanker. Within the table of organization and equipment for both the United States Army and the U.S. Marine Corps, the operator of the weapon has an assistant trained to fulfill multiple roles, in addition to being sniper qualified in the operation of the weapon. The shooter fires the shot while the spotter assists in observation of targets, atmospheric conditions, and handles ancillary tasks as immediate security of their location, communication with other parties, including directing artillery fire and close air support. A flanker's task is to observe areas not immediately visible to the sniper or spotter and assist with the team's perimeter and rear security, therefore flankers are usually armed with an assault rifle or battle rifle. Both spotter and flanker carry additional ammunition and associated equipment. The spotter detects, observes, and assigns targets and watches for the results of the shot. Using a spotting scope or a rangefinder, the spotter will also read the wind by using physical indicators and the mirage caused by the heat on the ground. Also, In conjunction with the shooter, the spotter will make calculations for distance, angle shooting, slant range, mil-related calculations, correction for atmospheric conditions and leads for moving targets. It is not unusual for the spotter to be equipped with a notepad and a laptop computer specifically for performing these calculations. Law enforcement applications. Law enforcement snipers, commonly called police snipers, and military snipers differ in many ways, including their areas of operation and tactics. A police sharpshooter is part of a police operation and usually takes part in relatively short missions. Police forces typically deploy such sharpshooters in hostage scenarios. This differs from a military sniper, who operates as part of a larger army, engaged in warfare. Sometimes as part of a SWAT team, police snipers are deployed alongside negotiators and an assault team trained for close quarters combat. As policemen, they are trained to shoot only as a last resort. When there is a direct threat to life, the police sharpshooter has a well-known rule: be prepared to take a life to save a life. Police snipers typically operate at much shorter ranges than military snipers, generally under 100 meters, 109 yd, and sometimes even less than 50 meters, 55 yd. Both types of snipers do make difficult shots under pressure, and often perform one-shot kills. Police units that are unequipped for tactical operations may rely on a specialized SWAT team, which may have a dedicated sniper. Some police sniper operations begin with military assistance. Police snipers placed in vantage points, such as high buildings, can provide security for events. In one high-profile incident, Mike Plum, a SWAT sniper in Columbus, Ohio, prevented a suicide by shooting a revolver out of the individual's hand, leaving him unharmed. The need for specialized training for police sharpshooters was made apparent in 1972 during the Munich massacre, when the German police could not deploy specialized personnel or equipment during the standoff at the airport in the closing phase of the crisis, and consequently all of the Israeli hostages were killed. While the German army did have snipers in 1972, the use of army snipers in the scenario was impossible due to the German constitution's explicit prohibition of the use of the military in domestic matters. This lack of trained snipers who could be used in civilian roles was later addressed with the founding of the Specialized Police Counter-Terrorist Unit GSG-9. Longest recorded sniper kill. The longest confirmed sniper kill in combat was achieved by an undisclosed member of the Canadian JTF-2 Special Forces in June 2017 at a distance of 3,540 m, 3,871 yd. The previous record holder was Craig Harrison, a corporal of Horse, COH, in the Blues and Royals RHG/D of the British Army. In November 2009, Harrison struck 2 Taliban machine gunners consecutively south of Musa Qala in Helmand province in Afghanistan at a range of 2,475 m, 2,707 yd, or 1.54 miles using a L115A3 long-range rifle. The QTU Lapua external ballistics software, using continuous Doppler drag coefficient, CD, data provided by Lapua, predicts that such shots traveling 2,475 m, 2,707 yd, would likely have struck their targets after nearly 6.0 seconds of flight time, having lost 93% of their kinetic energy, retaining 255 m/s, 840 feet/s, of their original 936 m/s, 3,070 feet/s, velocity, and having dropped 121.39 m, 398 feet 3 in, or 2.8 degrees from the original bore line. Due to the extreme distances and travel time involved, even a light cross breeze of 2.7 m/s, 6.0 miles per hour, would have diverted such shots 9.2 m, 360 in, off target, which would have required compensation. The calculation assumes a flat fire scenario, a situation where the shooting and target positions are at equal elevation, utilizing British military custom high-pressure .338 Lapua Magnum cartridges, loaded with 16.2 grams, 250 gr, Lapua Lockbase B408 bullets, fired at 936 m/s, 3071 ft/s, muzzle velocity under the following on-site, average, atmospheric conditions, barometric pressure, 1019 HPa, 30.1 nhg, at sea level equivalent or 899 HPa, 26.5 nhg, on-site, humidity, 25.9%, and temperature, 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, in the region for November 2009, resulting in an air density ρ equals 1.0854 kg/m3 at the 1043 m, 3,422 feet, elevation of Musa Kala. Harrison mentions in reports that the environmental conditions were perfect for long-range shooting, no wind, mild weather, clear visibility. In a BBC interview, Harrison reported it took about 9 shots for him and his spotter to initially range the target successfully. Military history. Before the development of rifling, firearms were smoothbore and inaccurate over long distance. Barrel rifling was invented at the end of the 15th century, but was only employed in large cannons. Over time, rifling, along with other gunnery advances, has increased the performance of modern firearms. Early history. Early forms of sniping or marksmanship were used during the American Revolutionary War. For instance, in 1777 at the Battle of Saratoga, the colonists hid in the trees and used early model rifles to shoot British officers. Most notably, Timothy Murphy shot and killed General Simon Fraser of Balnain on October 7, 1777 at a distance of about 400 yards. During the Battle of Brandywine, Captain Patrick Ferguson had a tall, distinguished American officer in his rifle's iron sights. Ferguson did not take the shot, as the officer had his back to Ferguson. Only later did Ferguson learn that George Washington had been on the battlefield that day. A special unit of marksmen was established during the Napoleonic Wars in the British Army. While most troops at that time used inaccurate smoothbore muskets, the British Green Jackets, named for their distinctive green uniforms, used the famous Baker rifle. Through the combination of a leather wad and tight grooves on the inside of the barrel, rifling, this weapon was far more accurate, though slower to load. These riflemen were the elite of the British Army, and served at the forefront of any engagement, most often in skirmish formation, scouting out and delaying the enemy. Another term, sharpshooter, was in use in British newspapers as early as 1801. In the Edinburgh Advertiser, June 23, 1801, can be found the following quote in a piece about the North British Militia: "This regiment has several field pieces, and 2 companies of sharpshooters, which are very necessary in the modern style of war." The term appears even earlier, around 1781, in continental Europe, translated from the German Scharfschütze. First sniper rifle. The Whitworth rifle was arguably the first long-range sniper rifle in the world. A muzzleloader designed by Sir Joseph Whitworth, a prominent British engineer, it used polygonal rifling instead, which meant that the projectile did not have to bite into grooves as was done with conventional rifling. The Whitworth rifle was far more accurate than the pattern 1853 Enfield, which had shown some weaknesses during the recent Crimean War. At trials in 1857 which tested the accuracy and range of both weapons, Whitworth's design outperformed the Enfield at a rate of about 3 to 1. The Whitworth rifle was capable of hitting the target at a range of 2,000 yards, whereas the Enfield could only manage it at 1,400 yards. During the Crimean War, the first optical sights were designed to fit onto rifles. Much of this pioneering work was the brainchild of Colonel D. Davidson, using optical sights produced by Chance Brothers of Birmingham. This allowed a marksman to observe and target objects more accurately at a greater distance than ever before. The telescopic sight, or scope, was originally fixed and could not be adjusted, which therefore limited its range. Despite its success at the trials, the rifle was not adopted by the British Army. However, the Whitworth Rifle Company was able to sell the weapon to the French Army, and also to the Confederacy during the American Civil War, where both the Union and Confederate armies employed sharpshooters. The most notable incident was during the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse, where on May 9, 1864, Union General John Sedgwick was killed by a Confederate Whitworth sharpshooter at a range of about 1,000 yards, 910 meters, after saying the enemy couldn't hit an elephant at this distance. Second Boer War. During the Boer War, the latest breech-loading rifled guns with magazines and smokeless powder were used by both sides. The British were equipped with the Lee Metford rifle, while the Boers had received the latest Mauser rifles from Germany. In the open terrain of South Africa, the marksmen were a crucial component to the outcome of the battle. The first British sniper unit began life as the Lovat Scouts, a Scottish Highland regiment formed in 1899, that earned high praise during the Second Boer War, 1899–1902. The unit was formed by Lord Lovat and reported to an American, Major Frederick Russell Burnham, the British Army Chief of Scouts under Lord Roberts. Burnham fittingly described these scouts as half wolf and half jackrabbit. Just like their Boer Scout opponents, these scouts were well practiced in the arts of marksmanship, field craft, map reading, observation, and military tactics. They were skilled woodsmen and practitioners of discretion. He who shoots and runs away, lives to shoot another day. They were also the first known military unit to wear a ghillie suit. Hesketh Pritchard said of them that keener men never lived, and that Burnham was the greatest scout of our time. Burnham distinguished himself in wars in South Africa, Rhodesia, and in Arizona fighting the Apaches, and his definitive work, Scouting on Two Continents, provides a dramatic and enlightening picture of what a sniper was at the time and how he operated. After the war, this regiment went on to formally become the first official sniper unit, then better known as sharpshooters. World War I. During World War I, snipers appeared as deadly sharpshooters in the trenches. At the start of the war, only Imperial Germany had troops that were issued scoped sniper rifles. Although sharpshooters existed on all sides, the Germans specially equipped some of their soldiers with scoped rifles that could pick off enemy soldiers showing their heads out of their trench. At first the French and British believed such hits to be coincidental hits, until the German scoped rifles were discovered. During World War I, the German army received a reputation for the deadliness and efficiency of its snipers, partly because of the high-quality lenses that German industry could manufacture. Soon the British Army began to train their own snipers in specialized sniper schools. Major Hesketh Pritchard was given formal permission to begin sniper training in 1915, and founded the first Army School of Sniping, Observation, and Scouting at Lingham in France in 1916. Starting with a first class of only 6, in time he was able to lecture to large numbers of soldiers from different Allied nations, proudly proclaiming in a letter that his school was turning out snipers at 3 times the rate of any such other school in the world. He also devised a metal-armored double loophole that would protect the sniper observer from enemy fire. The front loophole was fixed, but the rear was housed in a metal shutter sliding in grooves. Only when the 2 loopholes were lined up a 1 to 20 chance could an enemy shoot between them. Another innovation was the use of a dummy head to find the location of an enemy sniper. The papier-mâché figures were painted to resemble soldiers to draw sniper fire. Some were equipped with rubber surgical tubing so the dummy could smoke a cigarette and thus appear realistic. Holes punched in the dummy by enemy sniper bullets then could be used for triangulation purposes to determine the position of the enemy sniper, who could then be attacked with artillery fire. He developed many of the modern techniques in sniping, including the use of spotting scopes and working in pairs, and using Kim's game to train observational skills. In 1920, he wrote his account of his wartime activities in his book Sniping in France, to which reference is still made by modern authors regarding the subject. The main sniper rifles used during the First World War were the German Mauser Gür 98, the British Pattern 1914 Enfield and Lee Enfield SMLE Mk3, the Canadian Ross rifle, the American M1903 Springfield, and the Russian M1891 Mosin Nagant. World War II. During the interbellum, most nations dropped their specialized sniper units, notably the Germans. Effectiveness and dangers of snipers once again came to the fore during the Spanish Civil War. The only nation that had specially trained sniper units during the 1930s was the Soviet Union. Soviet snipers were trained in their skills as marksmen, in using the terrain to hide themselves from the enemy and the ability to work alongside regular forces. This made the Soviet sniper training focus more on normal combat situations than those of other nations. Snipers reappeared as important factors on the battlefield from the first campaign of World War II. During Germany's 1940 campaigns, it appeared that lone, well-hidden French and British snipers could halt the German advance for a significant amount of time. For example, during the pursuit to Dunkirk, British snipers were able to significantly delay the German infantry's advance. This prompted the British once again to increase training of specialized sniper units. Apart from marksmanship, British snipers were trained to blend in with the environment, often by using special camouflage clothing for concealment. However, because the British Army offered sniper training exclusively to officers and non-commissioned officers, the resulting small number of trained snipers in the combat units considerably reduced their overall effectiveness. During the Winter War, Finnish snipers took a heavy toll of the invading Soviet army. Simo Häyhä is credited with 505 confirmed kills, most with the Finnish version of the iron-sighted bolt-action Mosin Nagant. One of the best-known battles involving snipers, and the battle that made the Germans reinstate their specialized sniper training, was the Battle of Stalingrad. Their defensive position inside a city filled with rubble meant that Soviet snipers were able to inflict significant casualties on the Wehrmacht troops. Because of the nature of fighting in city rubble, snipers were very hard to spot and seriously dented the morale of the German attackers. The best known of these snipers was probably Vasily Zaitsev, featured in the novel War of the Rats and the subsequent film Enemy at the Gates. German Scharfschützen were prepared before the war, equipped with Karabiner 98 and later Geur 43 rifles, but there were often not enough of these weapons available, and as such some were armed with captured scoped Mosin Nagant 1891/30, SVT or Czech Mauser rifles. The Wehrmacht re-established its sniper training in 1942, drastically increasing the number of snipers per unit with the creation of an additional 31 sniper training companies by 1944. German snipers were at the time the only snipers in the world issued with purpose-manufactured sniping ammunition, known as the effect-firing SS round. The effect-firing SS round featured an extra carefully measured propellant charge and seated a heavy 12.8 gram, 198 gr, full metal jacketed boat tail projectile of match-grade build quality, lacking usual features such as a seating ring to improve the already high ballistic coefficient of 0.584, G1, further. For aiming optics, German snipers used the Zeiss Zielfire 4X, ZF39, telescopic sight which had bullet drop compensation in 50 m increments for ranges from 100 m up to 800 m or in some variations from 100 m up to 1000 m or 1200 m. There were ZF42, Zielfernrohr 43, ZF4, Zeiss Ziels X6X and other telescopic sights by various manufacturers like the Ojak 4X, Hensoldt Dialaton 4X and Karls Heliavier 4X with similar features employed on German sniper rifles. Several different mountings produced by various manufacturers were used for mounting aiming optics to the rifles. In February 1945 the Zielgerät 1229 active infrared aiming device was issued for night sniping with the STG-44 assault rifle. A total of 428,335 individuals received Red Army sniper training, including Soviet and non-Soviet partisans, with 9,534 receiving the sniping higher qualification. During World War II, 6-month training courses for women alone trained nearly 55,000 snipers, of which more than 2,000 later served in the Army. On average there was at least one sniper in an infantry platoon and one in every reconnaissance platoon, including in tank and even artillery units. Some used the PTRD anti-tank rifle with an adapted scope as an early example of an anti-materiel rifle. In the United States Armed Forces, sniper training was only very elementary and was mainly concerned with being able to hit targets over long distances. Snipers were required to be able to hit a body over 400 meters away, and a head over 200 meters away. There was almost no instruction in blending into the environment. Sniper training varied from place to place, resulting in wide variation in the qualities of snipers. The main reason the U.S. did not extend sniper training beyond long-range shooting was the limited deployment of U.S. soldiers until the Normandy invasion. During the campaigns in North Africa and Italy, most fighting occurred in arid and mountainous regions where the potential for concealment was limited, in contrast to Western and Central Europe. The U.S. Army's lack of familiarity with sniping tactics proved disastrous in Normandy and the campaign in Western Europe where they encountered well-trained German snipers. In Normandy, German snipers remained hidden in the dense vegetation and were able to encircle American units, firing at them from all sides. The American and British forces were surprised by how near the German snipers could approach in safety and attack them, as well as by their ability to hit targets at up to 1,000 m. A notable mistake made by inexperienced American soldiers was to lie down and wait when targeted by German snipers, allowing the snipers to pick them off one after another. German snipers often infiltrated Allied lines, and sometimes when the front lines moved, they continued to fight from their sniping positions, refusing to surrender until their rations and munitions were exhausted. Those tactics were also a consequence of changes in German enlistment. After several years of war and heavy losses on the Eastern Front, the German army was forced to rely more heavily on enlisting teenage soldiers. Due to lack of training in more complex group tactics, and thanks to rifle training provided by the Hitlerjugend, those soldiers were often used as autonomous left-behind snipers. While an experienced sniper would take a few lethal shots and retreat to a safer position, those young boys, due both to a disregard for their own safety and to lack of tactical experience, would frequently remain in a concealed position and fight until they ran out of ammunition or were killed or wounded. While this tactic generally ended in the demise of the sniper, giving rise to the nickname "suicide boys" that was given to those soldiers, this irrational behavior proved quite disruptive to the Allied forces' progress. After World War II, many elements of German sniper training and doctrine were copied by other countries. In the Pacific War, the Empire of Japan trained snipers. In the jungles of Asia and the Pacific Islands, snipers posed a serious threat to U.S., British, and Commonwealth troops. Japanese snipers were specially trained to use the environment to conceal themselves. Japanese snipers used foliage on their uniforms and dug well-concealed hideouts that were often connected with small trenches. There was no need for long-range accuracy because most combat in the jungle took place within a few hundred meters. Japanese snipers were known for their patience and ability to remain hidden for long periods. They almost never left their carefully camouflaged hiding spots. This meant that whenever a sniper was in the area, the location of the sniper could be determined after the sniper had fired a few shots. The Allies used their own snipers in the Pacific, notably the U.S. Marines, who used M1903 Springfield rifles. Common sniper rifles used during the Second World War include the Soviet M1891/30 Mosin Nagant and, to a lesser extent, the SVT-40, the German Mauser Karabiner 98K and Gewehr 43, the British Lee Enfield No. 4 and Pattern 1914 Enfield, the Japanese Arisaka 97, the American M1903A4 Springfield and M1C Garand. The Italians trained few snipers and supplied them with a scoped Carcano Model 1891. Training. Military sniper training aims to teach a high degree of proficiency in camouflage and concealment, stalking, observation and map reading, as well as precision marksmanship under various operational conditions. Trainees typically shoot thousands of rounds over a number of weeks, while learning these core skills. Snipers are trained to squeeze the trigger straight back with the ball of their finger, to avoid jerking the gun sideways. The most accurate position is prone, with the sandbag supporting the stock, and the stock's cheek piece against the cheek. In the field, a bipod can be used instead. Sometimes a sling is wrapped around the weak arm, or both, to reduce stock movement. Some doctrines train a sniper to breathe deeply before shooting, then hold their lungs empty while they line up and take their shot. Some go further, teaching their snipers to shoot between heartbeats to minimize barrel motion. Accuracy. The key to sniping is accuracy, which applies to both the weapon and the shooter. The weapon should be able to consistently place shots within tight tolerances. The sniper in turn must utilize the weapon to accurately place shots under varying conditions. A sniper must have the ability to accurately estimate the various factors that influence a bullet's trajectory and point of impact, such as range to the target, wind direction, wind velocity, altitude and elevation of the sniper and the target, and ambient temperature. Mistakes in estimation compound over distance and can decrease lethality or cause a shot to miss completely. Snipers zero their weapons at a target range or in the field. This is the process of adjusting the scope so that the bullet's points of impact is at the point of aim, center of scope or scope's crosshairs, for a specific distance. A rifle and scope should retain its zero as long as possible under all conditions to reduce the need to re-zero during missions. A sandbag can serve as a useful platform for shooting a sniper rifle, although any soft surface such as a rucksack will steady a rifle and contribute to consistency. In particular, bipods help when firing from a prone position, and enable the firing position to be sustained for an extended period of time. Many police and military sniper rifles come equipped with an adjustable bipod. Makeshift bipods known as shooting sticks can be constructed from items such as tree branches or ski poles. Range and accuracy vary depending on the cartridge and specific ammunition types that are used. Typical ranges for common battlefield cartridges are as follows. Cartridge maximum effective range: 5.56 x 45 mm NATO, .223 Remington, 300-500 m. 7.62 x 51 mm, .308 Winchester, 800-1000 m. 7.62 x 54 mm 800-1000 m. 7 mm Remington Magnum 900-1100 m. .300 Winchester Magnum 900-1200 m. .338 Lapua Magnum 1300-1600 m. .50 BMG, 12.7 x 99 mm NATO, 1500-2000 m. 12.7 x 108 mm, Russian, 1500-2000 m. 14.5 x 114 mm, Russian, 1900-2300 m. U.S. Military. Servicemen volunteer for the rigorous sniper training and are accepted on the basis of their aptitude, physical ability, marksmanship, patience, and mental stability. Military snipers may be further trained as forward air controllers, FACS, to direct air strikes, or forward observers, FOS, to direct artillery or mortar fire. Russian Army. From 2011, the Russian Armed Forces has run newly developed sniper courses in military district training centers. In place of the Soviet practice of mainly squad sharpshooters, which were often designated during initial training, and of whom only few become snipers per SE, new Army snipers are to be trained intensively for 3 months, for conscripts, or longer, for contract soldiers. The training program includes theory and practice of counter-sniper engagements, artillery spotting and coordination of air support. The first instructors are the graduates of the Solnechnogorsk Sniper Training Center. The method of sniper deployment, according to the Ministry of Defense, is likely to be 1 3-platoon company at the brigade level, with one of the platoons acting independently and the other 2 supporting the battalions as needed. Targeting, tactics and techniques. Range finding. The RAN.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.